Welcome to the Mojo Market Report. Here's your hosts, Dave Sturcio and Chris Gucci.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to a Friday edition of the Mojo Market Report. I got myself, and that's it. I got A5. No Dave today. Dave's on hiatus, feeling a little under the weather, but we got ourselves a Football Friday, and I don't even know if we could call it a Football Friday because guess what, guys? There's no football. No football until next week when we talk about the Super Bowl, but what we're going to do here is we're going to get a little bit into the off-season stuff because we're waiting on the basketball players. Baseball's around the corner. We're going to talk off-season in the Mojo market and see if there's any value in some of the players that seasons are finished already and going forward may have some news that are breaking over the off-season that are going to provide some value in the Mojo market. So without further ado, I'm just going to get right into it. We got three players. We got a quarterback, we got a running back, and we got a pass catcher. And I'm going to start off with my boy, none other than Jordan Love, the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. Now, everybody knows about all the speculation surrounding my boy, Aaron Rodgers, and for good reason. It's been going on for the last 4 or 5 off seasons where is Rodgers going to come back? Does he want to trade? Are they doing enough to keep players around him that he wants around him for him to move forward to try and get his second Super Bowl? Now, as a Packer fan, I feel like it's a little bit conjecture to even talk about what's going to happen with Jordan Love because Aaron Rodgers has to decide, is he going to play? And if he does play, is it going to be in Green Bay? It kind of all falls on what Rodgers wants to do more so than the organization. If I'm Jordan Love and I'm on the Packers next season, Rodgers comes back, I don't know if I want to be there again. I'm demanding a trade. And I know you got a mic today. Is your mic working?
Yeah, it's working.
If you're Jordan Love, right, Rodgers comes back, what do? You got to go. You got to go to the front office and say, "Hey, you guys going to pay me a little bit more to keep quiet?" Or
I'm definitely seeking a trade. How long is
demanding
he
a trade? This will be his 4th season. So if he goes into this season
I'm seeking a trade
as a fourth season as a backup after being a first-round pick, you're not only losing a chance to be a great player, even though you could make the case that it might make him a great player down the line, but you're losing a chance at money. 4 years that you didn't get a chance to create your second contract when you're looking at guys like Lamar Jackson, who's talking about $240 million on his second deal, and Dak, et cetera, et cetera. You go down the line, Kyler Murray, all these guys, first-round picks. Even Dak wasn't. Dak was a 4th-rounder, and he got paid $40 million. Jordan Love deserves a chance to make some money, and talking about him as a player, though, we haven't seen much out of Jordan Love. He has under 100 attempts in his career. Last year in his first career start, well, let me actually go back. Rookie season was a COVID rookie year. So he didn't really get any training camp. He didn't dress much of the rookie year. So it looked like, okay, this was a bad pick. We have a quarterback in the first round. A lot of these guys are starting out of the gate, first-round quarterbacks. He's not even able to dress. Oh, what a bad pick. Now, I was kind of on that fence. I would have liked T. Higgins at the time. But now that we're here, we're in going into year 4, the rookie season was a COVID season. We'll throw that away. Last year, Jordan Love actually had an opportunity to get his first start. If you guys remember when Aaron Rodgers had his COVID situation and he wasn't able to play, Jordan Love had to go on the road to Kansas City and go up against what I thought at the time was one of the worst defenses in football. But they do have Steve Spagnuolo that's coaching him up. And I feel like it was in that game that Kansas City was able to kind of turn a corner defensively. They blitzed Jordan Love every single play. The Packers went into that game, and they lost 17-16 on the road against a really, really good Chiefs team. So Jordan Love, he didn't win, but he actually showed that he could play in this league going up against Mahomes on the road. That's a tall order, and to only lose by 1 point, I don't care how. You only score 16 points, it's still a feather in your cap if you ask me. Furthermore, this season, he came in the game against Philly in sparing time, and he had 160 yards and a touchdown. Now, he was about 67%. I know it was some would call it garbage time, but I wouldn't really call it that. They had a slight chance to make themselves back into that game. They weren't able to do it, but I like what I see out of Jordan Love. He's a first-round talent. Most of the time, we see quarterbacks get thrown into the fire way too soon. This guy, first-round talent, he's had 3 years to kind of mature a little bit behind Aaron Rodgers. He has the same coaching staff for his entire career. These are things that you just don't see in this league anymore. And because of those reasons, the minute he does get his opportunity in Green Bay, I think it's going to be to the moon for Jordan Love. And if you look at his stock right now over the course of this season, is that this season at?
Yeah, that's in the 1 month span.
So 1 month span, he's already up about 36, 38%. you could imagine that if there's news on Aaron Rodgers getting traded, now not San Fran people, but if Aaron Rodgers gets traded, we all know that Jordan Love's stock is going to double in one day. So I would say get out in front of that now while you can. Even if Rodgers doesn't get traded, it stays around the same. Maybe it dips a little bit, but that's really not too much of a risk if you ask me. I think that there's a real chance that Rodgers gets traded, Jordan Love is a starter, and then we're talking about another 50% increase in his stock. So Jordan Love, no questions asked. That's where I'm going with that. Moving on to, who do we got next, Dan? We got pass catchers, or do we got
running
backs?
Cook.
Oh, this is a good one. All right. Guys, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my boy James Cook. All right. I'm not a big fan of his brother Dalvin Cook because of, you just heard about my fanhood about Green Bay Packers. But James Cook, on the other hand, look, going into this season, I had him pegged as a potential starter for the Bills mid-season. He didn't exactly take over as a starting role, but he did manage to carve himself out a nice little timeshare. I say that towards the end of the year, he was actually getting more attempts in bigger spots than Devin Singletary was. And guess what? Devin Singletary is entering his free agent season. So, or not even free, he is a free agent. He's unrestricted free agent, and he's not going to warrant a franchise tag, nor do the Bills have real money to pay for a running back at this point. So they got cap issues. They have a young kid in James Cook who's demanding no money, and it's a easy show you the door Devin Singletary, in comes James Cook. And looking at his stats, he's done better than any of the Buffalo Bills running backs that have done in the Josh Allen tenure, if I'm being honest. Devin Singletary last year down the stretch kind of figured things out, and he had a 4-game stretch at the end of the season where he played well. But for the most part, the Bills' running attack has been entirely Josh Allen since he's been there. And I don't think it's going to change much, but looking at what James Cook was able to do, he had 90 attempts or 90-something attempts, and he was averaging about 6 yards a carry. So that's pretty good it's a small sample size, but 90 attempts is enough as to where you could say, okay, that's not a flash in the pan. With the extra opportunities that he's definitely going to be seeing, and with his pedigree, being that his brother's in the NFL, he knows what it takes to get it done in this league. Second-round pick, so there is still some pedigree on his own, not just because of his brother was drafted high. I think James Cooks is a clear RB1, and not only that, his talent this season was enough for them to get rid of Zach Moss and move on from him. So not only did they have 2 running backs that they've had that knew the system for 2 years, they're going to let Devin Singletary walk, and they actually traded Zach Moss. So James Cook, he's the last man standing. I don't know if Nyheim Hines is really expected to be much of a running back for them, more so than a kick returner and a guy that a third down guy catching balls out of the backfield. So guys, James Cook, I'd say you invest in him now. It's a small portion because you look at his stock price, it's not too high, and he's actually down from where he entered the league at, and he's in a far better position now than he was going into year one because Devin Singletary's gone and Zach Moss is gone, and he's by himself. So I think it's a clear-cut no-brainer. James Cook is the guy that you're going to want to invest in the Buffalo Bills offense this offseason. Okay, so now it gets a little more difficult as we move on to the next position because I said pass catchers, but I really I have a hard time looking into wide receivers in the Mojo market right now in terms of how we're looking at it now. Going into the offseason, receivers get signed. So if you look at the free agent class, there's about 50 running backs that are available. There's even some quarterbacks that are available, but there really is no receivers. Juju, I think, is the best guy on the market, and then we're looking at like Julio Jones. We're looking at Allen Lazard. We're looking at guys like T.Y. Hilton, who it took 16 weeks of the regular season this year for him to catch on with the team. You see it in this league. Guys going into their third year get extensions at the receiver position, and running backs do not. Terry McLaurin was the last one to sign out of that class, and he was the only one left. The only chance you get a receiver now is through trade in the offseason, and that's what we're looking at here. We're looking at a guy like DeAndre Hopkins probably going to get traded, and guess who is the recipient of all those targets? Now, it might not be all of them, but my guy Trey McBride came on kind of late this season. I know year one tight ends don't really do well, and the Cardinals in general just had their hands full with the quarterback situation. They had the quarterback and the coach fighting. And as they enter this offseason, there's not much to be happy about in Arizona. They lost their coach. He's in Thailand somewhere doing his thing. God bless him. Their quarterback is not going to rush his rehab, nor should he. They're apparently having a hard time finding a new head coach because nobody wants to go coach Kyler, which I think is all hearsay. I think any coach gets an opportunity to be a head coach in this league. Quarterback could be a baby, all he wants. It doesn't matter. We're talking about Cliff Kingsbury is making $5 million a year to do nothing. You take that head coaching job because the worst thing they do is fire you, and then you get paid. So I don't believe that for a split second. But as of now, they don't have a head coach. Kyler Murray's on the outs with the injury situation, saying he's not going to rush his rehab. And they're already talked about trading away their wide receiver one. And that's the reason why I'm talking about Trey McBride, because last season he didn't do anything in the first 9 games. He had 3 catches or 3 targets in one game in week 2. Really didn't see the field much until about week 11. And then from week 14 on, he didn't have a game where he saw under 3 or 4 targets. I think it's 3. So you see what happened towards the end. And you see what happened towards the end when Kyler Murray was out and we saw their backups and their third stringers get to go in there and they lean a little bit more heavily on the tight end. Well, guess what? Kyler Murray's out starting week 1 through 8 next year too. So whoever's that quarterback is either going to be a young guy or it's going to be Colt McCoy, a guy that was a backup with that team this year and worked largely with a Trey McBride in the offseason or with the number 2s all season. I think what we're going to be looking at out of Arizona all offseason is going to be some positivity, some good news surrounding this roster, maybe a Rondell Moore sighting, but it's been Rondell Moore season for about 3 years now, and I haven't seen him show up. So I think what we're going to look at is Trey McBride's offseason, if he kind of gets going in camp and there's some positive reports, which I think is going to happen. Now, if you remember going into the season this year, he was the number 1 rookie drafted in the draft class. Tight ends, like I said, take more time. Even look at Travis Kelce's rookie year. He didn't do a damn thing. So these guys take a little bit of time. It may be a small creep up in the stock price because I don't know that we're going to get much good news coming out of Arizona. But if you want somebody that I think towards the season approaching might start trickling up as a pass catcher, I'm going with my boy Trey McBride. And even if he doesn't make money in the offseason, I think it's a safe bet once we start playing football games again that he's going to do well. So Trey McBride, there you have it. I did my 3. I know it was a shorter show today, guys, but look, we're on our own over here. It's a Friday. Dave's feeling under the weather. We wanted to put out some product for you. Ant got his 1 or 2 lines in. I'm proud of you, buddy. And I guess that's going to do it. Make sure you guys go follow us on all the social medias. We got the Mojo over on TikTok. We got it on Instagram. We have it on Discord. And what are we missing here? Twitter and the Twitterverse. So go check us out on @Mojo on all of those things. And guys, first and foremost, download the app and start playing. We have the Liquid Props. They just introduced all of the college players from the Senior Bowl, not just the quarterbacks. We got some running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends mixed in there. I'm sure as the draft approaches, we're going to insert a little bit more of the Zach Charbonnets and the Bijan Robinsons of the world because I'm excited to see where those guys' stocks are. And, of course, NBA on the rise and MLB coming soon. You could expect NBA this month and MLB coming in April. So there you have it. I got myself, Chris Gucci, and that's it for the Mojo Market Report, baby.